Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Noslo, and this is going to be a crash course on how to record, edit, and share gameplay recording. Going forward, we're going to be asking for recording of gameplay for mentors to review. I think it's one of the best ways for us to really get an insight as to how we can offer advice on how to improve. And in order to assist with that, I thought I'd make a tutorial on how to actually record your gameplay for any of those who might be uncomfortable. I'm going to try to keep this video brief, try to stick to the basics. That being said, due to the nature of this, it's probably going to end up being pretty long. I haven't really rehearsed this or outlined it or anything, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can get it on the first try. So we're going to talk about mainly three things. The first thing is going to be how to record video, and a couple of different ways that you can do that. One way that I prefer, one way that a lot of people use, and a third way that I don't have a ton of experience with, but we might learn together. We're going to go very, very briefly on how to edit video, primarily just shortening and trimming clips and putting two clips together. We're not going to talk about anything fancy there. And thirdly, we're going to talk about how to share video and some of the ways that we're going to be looking for and how to receive it. With that being said, let's get to it. So the first way I'm going to talk about how to record video is my preferred method. It's going to be shadow play. Shadow play isn't going to work for everybody. One of the first requirements of shadow play is you need an NVIDIA graphics card. I think it needs to be a GTX 650 or newer, which is a pretty old card at this point. But some of you AMD folk might be left out. I'm not sure if AMD has their own version of shadow play. It wouldn't surprise me if they did. The second thing you need is a program called GeForce Experience. This is kind of NVIDIA's proprietary software. This is what they use to handle driver updates. They have like optimization settings for a lot of different games and stuff like that. Shadowplay is really nice because it has a very, very, very low performance impact. So Shadowplay does something really interesting. It actually buffers to VRAM. So it uses the extra video RAM on your graphics card to buffer video, which means Guild Wars 2 takes up a very little amount of VRAM, which means Shadowplay should have virtually zero performance impact, other than when you're actually transferring your buffered video over to your hard drive. There's a couple things you want to know how to set it up in this GeForce Experience panel. You have a little cog wheel up here for settings, and then you have the downsides of having this rehearsed. I think under in-game overlay, if you go to settings here and you go to recordings, this is the first place you're going to go. This is setting the path that all your videos are going to go to. I just have mine default to the videos folder, but you can have them go to wherever you want. And then you're going to go to, I think, video capture. Perfect. So you can control the amount of time that video buffers for, and it's going to give you a little estimation on how long that video is going to be. Obviously, as you go up in time, you go up in size. I found 5 minutes is a nice sweet spot. Normally we don't run into a whole lot of fights that go beyond 5 minutes. This gives you adequate time to capture all the relevant information. This lets you set the quality of your video. This is lets you set your bit rate as well as FPS. Your resolution should be set to in-game. This is just going to use your native game resolution. I'd probably recommend recording at 60 FPS. You can record lower if you want to, if your game can't really handle 60 FPS, or if you want to save on video space. And same thing for bitrate. The only reason you want to lower the bitrate is if you want to save on space if your computer can't handle it. That being said, the only other thing you might want to set up here is your hotkeys under keyboard shortcuts. I use the default ones, which means all I have to do is press Alt plus F10, and it's going to automatically save the last 5 minutes of gameplay that I recorded. I don't have to remember to do anything ahead of time. I don't have to remember to run this before I start gaming. This is always going to be up automatically. So whenever something cool happens or whenever a fight finishes, I can just remember, oh, that was a pretty interesting fight. Alt F10, that 5-minute clip gets set aside to edit later. Really, really nice. And like I said, that has 0 performance impact, which is why I prefer Shadowplay. But like I said, this isn't going to work for everybody because you need a NVIDIA graphics card to use it. So let's move on. The next thing we're going to talk about is OBS. So OBS is open broadcast software. This is probably the industry standard tool for streaming, and it's a very powerful recording program. It's actually what I'm using to record this video right now. OBS has a lot of features. Most of them we can probably skip over for the sake of this video. And it also has a similar replay feature that Shadowplay has. The difference is OBS buffers to RAM instead of VRAM. Guild Wars 2 uses a decent amount of RAM, so this actually might have a pretty significant performance impact on your machine while you're gaming. It's just something to keep in mind. So let's get to it. The first thing we want to do, or the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go to File Settings. Under General, I'm going to switch this to a dark theme because this bright screen hurts my eyes. Much better. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I just prefer this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create a scene. I have mine set to Guild Wars 2 recording. All you have to do is hit the little plus button here to add a scene. You give it a name. Pretty easy. The second thing you want to do is adding a source. So you can do this one of 2 ways. You can just add a display capture. Screen 1. What this is going to do is just going to capture your screen. You can set it to a different display if you want to. You can set it to capture your cursor. This is just going to capture anything that you have up on your screen. The second way you could do this is you could add game capture. What this is going to do is it's going to capture either any full screen application if you game in full screen, or you can actually set it to capture, I don't have Guild Wars 2 running right now, but you could actually have it to capture only the Guild Wars exe, which means if you tab out or something like that, it's not gonna capture that. It's gonna stay capturing Guild Wars 2. I normally just run screen capture. There we go, because this tend to works the best for me. And obviously you can see an infinite loop of me recording OBS. How fun. So after you have your scene set up, after you have your sources set up, we can start doing a deeper dive into the settings. So you don't really have to worry about anything in the general tab unless you want to change your theme, change your language, stuff like that. None of this is critical to how the program functions. We're going to skip over stream settings. Again, we're not using OBS to stream. OBS is a very powerful tool if you ever do want to stream, but for the sake of time, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to go straight to output. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to change this output mode. I think it defaults to simple. We're going to change that to advanced. That gives us a little bit more control. Again, we're going to skip over the streaming tab and go straight to recording. So the first thing you do is you set a path that all of our recordings are going to go. Again, I just use the default path here. Recording format is probably going to be an MP4. MP4 is a very universal format. It'll work in pretty much every video editor. You don't run into any proprietary issues. Anything can play it. So we're just going to use MP4. You're not going to need more than 1 audio track, so just leave that set to 1. So encoder, this is pretty important. If you have a NVIDIA graphics card, you probably want to use this NVENC H.264 encoder. If you have an AMD graphics card, I think you'll have a setting for a proprietary AMD encoder. That being said, if you don't have a very good graphics card at all and you have a much better processor, you're going to want to use this X264. Essentially what this is changing is this setting is having your graphics card do the encoding. This setting is having your CPU do the encoding. I prefer to have my graphics card do it. I found it performs a little bit better, but this is sort of up to you. I'd recommend just having your graphics card do it. We're going to leave rescaled output unchecked. I find it better to just record in whatever your native resolution is, and if you need to downscale it later, you can downscale it in post-editing. So we're not going to rescale the output at all. I don't need to worry about any of that. You can change your bitrate. 2500 is a really low bitrate. That's not going to have very clear video. I'd probably recommend putting this somewhere closer to 10,000. If I were actually recording video for myself, I would probably put this up to 40,000. But that is because I have a very powerful machine and I know that I can handle it and I know that I have the space for it. That being said, you could probably get away with 10,000. The higher the bitrate, the higher quality of video you're going to have. But the higher performance and the higher time it's going to take to encode it, and it's going to take up more space. So 10,000 is probably pretty good middle ground. I don't know if this is set to default or not, but you're going to want to have use 2-pass encoding checked. Under GPU, set that to 0. B-frame, set that to 2. The rest of this you can leave as default. Under audio, since we only have one audio track, we only have to worry about this first option here. Set this audio bitrate to 320. That pretty much means you are not going to be downscaling the audio quality. There's really no reason to, since these are going to be local files. If we were streaming and we were concerned about bandwidth usage, we could probably scale this down a little bit. But since this is just a local video, might as well keep the sound quality high. And then, as I mentioned before, OBS does have an option for a replay buffer. I haven't personally used this, so I can't really attest to how well it actually works. But you do have to enable it. You can set a custom length for however long you want that replay buffer to be. Again, keep in mind, I don't think this number is accurate, but keep in mind as you go up in this, your file sizes are going to go up as well. And I believe that you need to set hotkeys for this to actually work, which we can talk about in a bit. So next, we're going to go to the audio tab. The first thing we want to look at here is your sample rate. You want to have this sample rate set to whatever the sampling rate of your microphone is. To find that out, if you go to the bottom of your screen and you go to your recording devices, find your microphone, go to properties, and under advanced, this should tell you exactly what the sampling rate of your microphone is. Mine is at 44.1, so I'm going to leave that at 44.1. Perfect. Channels is going to be stereo. Desktop audio device, you're going to want to leave this at default. This is going to make sure that you're capturing game sounds, capturing voices from Discord. Being able to hear the commander's voice is pretty important in terms of gameplay review. So you want this set to default. And you want your first microphone set to whatever your main microphone is. Don't leave this at default. It can cause some weird issues. Set it to whatever the actual microphone you're going to be using is. And then you can pretty much leave the rest of this at its default settings. Under video tab, your base canvas resolution is going to be whatever the native resolution of your monitor is. Mine is 1920 by 1080. And again, same as before, we're not going to be downscaling this. If we want to downscale it to like 720, we can do that in post editing if we want to. But we might as well record at the highest quality, and it gives us that option to downscale it later if we want to, rather than forcing us to do it from the get-go. Your downscale filter, leave this set to the third option here. Again, that's going to give you the best quality. We're not downscaling anyway, so this doesn't really matter. And then FPS, again, you probably want that at 60. If size is an issue for you, you might want to lower that, but probably don't need to. So we can go to hotkeys. I don't really have any hotkeys set up for this because I don't need many. But if you do plan on using that replay feature, you do have an option for starting and stopping the buffer. which is going to tell OBS that you're going to be using this replay buffer. And then to actually save a replay, that has its own dedicated hotkey here. And then the last tab, Advanced. Process priority, I leave this above normal. Render, you're going to want to use Direct3D 11. If you have an AMD, whatever you're using for encoding, if you have an AMD processor or CPU, you're probably going to have an option for OpenGL here. You'd want to select that if you use AMD. Color format, I crank these out. Default, I think it's probably going to be set on 601 and partial. Again, since these are localized videos, you might as well have full color accuracy. So color space gets set to 709. Color range gets set to full. And the rest of this, I believe, this has to do with streaming. Don't worry about that. That should be fine, set as default. Yeah, so the rest of this you can just leave set as default. And then you are, make sure to click the apply button for any changes you made that mistake before. And then you should be set up to record. So what you can do is you can start recording, and that's going to record from the point you hit that button to the point you stop hitting that button. Or again, you have the option to start the replay buffer. And what that means is that whenever you hit that hotkey for save replay, it's going to save the last 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever you set that number to minutes of gameplay. And that clip is going to go nicely into wherever you set the files to save to. Fun time. So let's close this out. So Shadowplay and OBS are both going to leave you with pretty much MP4 clips. They're going to be unedited. Again, Shadowplay gives you a 5-minute clip. More often than not, you don't need full 5 minutes to show off what happened in a fight. And more often than not, you're going to have multiple clips that you probably want to put together just so you're not sending, individual fights at a time. So just put them all in the same video. So to do that, you need a video editor. My default one that I kind of use is Adobe Creative. It's not a free program. I paid monthly for this. In my opinion, it's probably the best video editor on the market. That being said, I understand that not everybody wants to pay a monthly subscription for something that they very possibly may only use once or twice. That being said, a really good alternative that I found is something called OpenShot. OpenShot, I found, has a really, really similar interface to Creative and works in a lot of the same ways that I keep saying Creative. It's called Premiere. It works a lot of the same ways that Premiere works. So let's open up OpenShot. We'll see how this looks. So video editing, this looks a little overwhelming at first, but there's really not that much to it. There's really nothing you have to worry about for settings or anything like that from the get-go. All we need to do is drag some clips in here. We'll cut them up, we'll put them together, and we'll save it. So to do that, I've already prepared a couple clips from the other night, some scourge fights. So I can literally just drag and drop these into my project files folder, or section, I should say, not folder. So I'm going to drop those both in there. Boom. We're going to take this first one, we're going to plop it down to our timeline. So our timeline is where we do all of our editing on, and you'll see immediately it gives us a nice little, make this full screen, nice little preview window. If we hit play, it'll start playing with all of our guildies' lovely voices. So I'm going to pause that. So what we can do is we can find the point in time where the fight starts. And this might look a little bit janky for me because I'm recording via OBS and scrubbing over video. It's putting a pretty heavy strain on my CPU, so this preview might not buffer instantly. The downsides of encoding and scrubbing at the same time. I hope this doesn't get too hung up though. Also the downsides of not having practiced this first. We'll give it a little bit to buffer the entire video out. the meantime, I should use you as a captive audience to look at pictures of my dog. I have hundreds of them. I'll turn this into a 2-hour video. Yeah. Alright. So we are back. I had to cut the video a little bit there to reset this up a little bit differently so I could edit and record at the same time. My processor was throwing a fit about that, so I tweaked a couple things. Anyways, as I was saying, once you have your 2 clips loaded in your project files, you can drag them down onto your timeline on the different tracks here. And here's where you can kind of start to edit them. So I pretty much know that, and I can use the preview to see that realistically I only need the last probably 2 minutes of this video. The rest of that before was us just kind of running around. So I can click on this little scissors tool, it's called the razor tool, and actually cut this right where I don't need. I'm going to unselect that. I'm going to click on the first half of that and delete it. And then I can drag this back to the beginning of the timeline. So now when I scrub over this preview, I can see it pretty much captures this fight. I'm not going to replay this in real time here because it would be a waste of time, and that's kind of not why we're here. I could probably, if I wanted to, I could probably cut off the last couple seconds as well because the fight probably ended. And then I can do my same thing with track number 2. Or clip number 2, I should say. It's on track 3. So I can go in, I can go right at about the 2-minute mark. Probably going to be about the same. Again, I'm just going to use a little preview window to see where the fight starts. This is probably a good spot. Alright, when we see the enemies come into frame here. Again, razor tool, we're going to cut it right there. Unselect razor tool. We're going to delete that first half because that is stuff we don't need. And we're pretty much just going to drag this right next to this first clip. That way when this clip ends, this one starts. If you want, you can put a little gap in there, just so it's not an abrupt transition. Also, if you want, feel free to play around with transitions. They're not too hard to figure out. They're not necessary though, so I'm not really going to cover them in this video for the sake of time. And once you have that, you have 2 clips that'll play back to back. And you can keep adding, more and more clips onto this. And again, this is to ensure that down the line, once you have a video of, 4, 5, 6 fights, you're not, sharing those individually or sending them individually. You can just send one single thing. It'll make it a lot easier on everybody. So we are ready to save this. So what we can do is we can go to File, and we want to go to Export Video. You could hit Control E as well if you wanted to, but we're not going to do it that way. Oh no, is it going to crash on me again? Oh, there we go. Cool. So we're going to give this a file name. Scourge Gameplay Review. We're going to pick a path where it's going to go. I'm just going to throw this on my desktop. So what we can do is we're gonna leave this set to simple. This is gonna let you pick the file format that it comes out as and what it gets encoded as. Again, we're just gonna leave this as MP4. There's a lot of different video profiles that we can choose from. Pick the one that applies. So I want this outputted at HD 1080p at 60 FPS. If you want, this would be your chance to downscale this to like 720p at a lower FPS if you're concerned about file sizes. But I am not. The one thing we might want to change, there's a chance that you might have problems with your audio. If you do, you're gonna want to go to the Advanced tab. For some reason, the biggest issue I have with OpenShot is that it defaults to the audio codec AC3, which is actually a proprietary audio codec. There's a couple things that have issues with this codec. For the most part, it's not an issue, but if for whatever reason you have audio problems, one of the first things you might want to try to do is change this audio codec from AC3 to AAC. And that should help with some stuff. So I'm going to hit, at this point I would hit export video. I'm not going to do this here because that's probably going to take 6-7 minutes, maybe a little bit longer since I'm recording at the same time. And I don't want to sit here and wait for that to happen. But I mean, at this point, after you export the video, you're going to be left with a finished product, which you can send to someone. But I'm going to hit cancel on that for now. And we can move on to the next thing. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Plays.tv. So Plays.tv is kind of nice because it combines all three of the things that we've talked about: recording video, editing video, and sharing video, kind of into one spot. Now keep in mind, I don't have a lot of experience with this. I haven't been using it a whole lot. But I do recognize that it's probably going to be a go-to tool for a lot of you folk. So it's worth talking about because, again, it's probably the easiest of the three methods we've talked about. So initially, we're going to want to set this up. So we click on the little cog here. I set this to manual because at that point it functions sort of like Shadowplay does, to which I have Control F3 set to save a highlight clip. I have a highlight length of 5 minutes, and I still have the option of just recording just straight video if I want to as well. You have the option of changing your quality. So again, if this were me, I would be doing this 1080p at 60 FPS at probably a bitrate of 10 megs, but that's more up to you. Don't need to worry about webcam or hiding the cursor or the watermark or anything like that. I ended up turning the in-game overlay on. It soothes my mind to know that it's actually doing something, so I like to have this on. Audio, same thing. You want your input source set to your microphone, and you probably just want to have this set to open mic. And make sure this record all audio is checked. Again, that's going to make sure that you're recording game sounds, Discord sounds, stuff like that. Don't need to worry about account. It is worth mentioning that for Plays.tv, you do need to register an account with them. So that's going to be step number 1 to using this is making an account. And then the last thing that we want to do is you go to Advanced. You're going to want to set your path. This defaults to its own folder. I'm fine with that. If you want to change the folder, feel free. The one thing that I had to do, let's see if it's still in here. It's not showing up here for some reason. This didn't work for me initially until I went in here and manually added Guild Wars as a detected game. To do that, you just go to Add. You go to wherever your default Guild Wars is, so it's probably in Program Files. Oh, my bad. Program Files, Guild Wars 2, 64bit.exe. And that should show up there. Again, I couldn't get mine to work without doing this, so you might have to do this first. There's a chance you might not have to. And then, from that point forward, you are good to go. All you have to do is hit Control F3 while you're playing a game, and it saves that clip for you. So another thing you can do is you can edit those clips right in this. So I have a recording that I did from earlier. So if I go into this, it's called Highlight 1. It pulls it up here. I can play this from here if I want to. Fast forward through it. I can scrub through this. I can hit Create a Clip, which is going to let me highlight whatever part of this I want to highlight. I don't think I'm actually doing anything in this clip, so don't hold out for anything interesting. Oh. Did we see some combat in there? Alright, there's some combat in here. So let's just say I wanted to highlight this combat. So I can say, I'm going to move this little highlight bar down. We'll say right from here, and we'll see if we can find the end of this fight. Oh, now I'm under pressure. Did I win this or not? I don't want to highlight a clip that I lost. Let's see here. Oh, that guy gets downed. Sitting on super low health. Dropping mad damage. Oh, that guy's in pugs. I bet he kills me. Oh no, this isn't looking good. Oh, he goes down. Okay, we're good. Nice. So let's just say I wanted to highlight this. We got about a minute. We got about a minute fight here. So what we can do is we can hit share. And it should share this, so I can make a comment on it. I can tag people in it. Plays.tv has a lot of social connections to it, which I don't really care about. You can send it to people too. Apparently that's in beta. You can make this public or unlisted, sort of the same thing that YouTube does. And let's hit post. Oh, I have to put a... Apparently I can't type. Guild Wars 2. Close call. So now they're uploading my video. You just shared your first video. How nice. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. Again, the downside of doing this live without practicing first. There it goes. Alright, so copy link to clipboard. That should give us a URL. If I go to Google Chrome, this should give us the clip. Oh, it's still processing. I don't know how long it takes for them to process this stuff, but Lee, go. Please go. Let's just close that out. The downside of Plays.tv is you can only really do one clip at a time. I don't think there's a way to edit multiple clips together, which is kind of a bummer. But that being said, it's not too big of a deal to just send multiple URLs to specific clips. As far as sending videos of other clips that you had that you maybe made from OBS or from Shadowplay, first option is either sending them directly via Discord PMs. I did double check. Most of the mentors are okay with that. You probably just want to run that by whoever your class mentor is first, what their preferred method is. Just don't go sending files to people on Discord willy-nilly. Another option is you can upload it somewhere. Somewhere like YouTube would work if you have a YouTube account. I use a website called Streamable. Streamable is really nice for just posting clips of stuff like this as well. And that'll just spit you a URL that you can send to someone. And that's that. So like I said, just to reiterate, a couple different ways of recording. Shadowplay is a really good one. OBS is a really good one. Plays.tv is really good. Plays TV is a really good one. If you use Shadowplay or OBS, you're going to want to edit your videos into a singular clip. Adobe Premiere is a really, really good paid for method. Otherwise, OpenShot is a pretty good free version. And then as far as sharing clips, PMing them directly via Discord or uploading them to something like YouTube or Streamable works really well. Or in the case of Plays.tv, kind of has that feature built right into it. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask. I'm always around on Discord. Just tag me somewhere. I'll see it. And I look forward to seeing your guys' videos. Thanks.